Four armed men caught on camera breaking into a home and robbing the people inside. A surveillance camera even catches one of the robbers falling into a pool during his getaway.
Today, we're going to take a look at the Haven lock. The good, bad, and the ugly. What do you think of that? Hey everybody, welcome back to Deadbolt Defense. I'm Rob. So if you're familiar with my site or perhaps my book, you will have heard the story about my family almost becoming a crime statistic when I was away on a deployment in Afghanistan. And from that experience really sprang the idea about guard-wall defense and how to better prepare for some of the things that can or could happen in life. And one of them clearly is home security. And so looking at the totality of your home security, one of the aspects certainly is your doors. And most houses have deadbolts on doors. Haven Lock advertises that their lock is 10 times stronger than a deadbolt. This got me interested, obviously, and having kicked a couple of doors down in my day, it is really easy to kick through a deadbolt. Typically what happens is a thief comes to the front door, rings the bell, nobody answers. They go around to the back, they find the door, 1 or 2, 3 kicks, boom, they're inside the house. The bottom line is, yes, I do recommend it, but the caveat is it may not be as easy to install as the company would have you believe.
And said nothing is getting the job done.
Both of our neighbors had break-ins, and we looked at the deadbolt and looked at what was currently being offered on the market and said there's got to be a better way. So we came up with this idea: let's make a very thin, elegantly designed product that goes on the inside of your home. You can activate it with your foot, or if you use our smart version, with a key fob or a smartphone app. And what the product does is lifts up a wedge-activated locking mechanism that is 10 times stronger than your deadbolt. I came up with this idea when I was overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan. Overseas, the bad guys were welding bars at the bottom in the middle of their doors. After doing countless infills, our special operations assaulters had difficulty getting into those homes to capture the bad guys.
This is your standard deadbolt. While it may feel secure, an intruder can get in about 5 kicks.
With our product, when I go up against it and I try to get through it, it actually flexes. So the door and the lock actually bend and flex together, which absorbs a lot of that force, which makes it really difficult.
So when you go to the Haven Lock website, it's laid out quite nicely, and they explain exactly how to put their lock, which rests on the floor at the bottom of the door. And you can see in their videos that the little part comes up and to lock it, and so somebody kicking that thing has a very difficult time. So just a few things that I found when I put my first Haven lock in. So of course in their videos they got like the perfect setup for the lock and the floor and the height that reaches the door. Now if you're like me, none of that's going to apply when it comes time to put in your lock, right? So for me, there was too much space, so that even when the lock was open, the door was passing over it. So Haven Lock sells these spacers that you can add incrementally to raise your lock. So that's going to cost you $10 per increment. But nonetheless, so for one of my locks, I had to get about 7 of these things. And then comes you got to screw it into your floor. So, you got to take that into consideration. If you're going to be in that house for a long time, maybe screwing into the floor is no problem. I'm going to die in this house because I'm sick of moving, having done it so much time in my career. So for me, not a problem. I'm willing to do that. If you're a renter or something else, you might want to consider that. You can always unscrew the thing and take the locks with you, but you're going to leave about 6 or 8 screw marks into the floor there. So it's just a consideration. Putting it in, the first time I did it, when I used a power drill to screw those screws in, and there's a little bit of wiggle room, and usually those last couple of torques can change your orientation of the thing ever so slightly, so it can be a little bit off kilter if you're not careful. So I want to be careful about stuff moving around at the last second here as I drill this in, because you can see there's a little bit of wiggle room there. I don't want it to go in crooked. So I'm going to attack the ends first. Then we'll come in and do the center. Gotta be careful not to get the straps here. And so Havenlock explains, well, you want to do the 2 ends first and then do the middle. But it's just something, even though I did that, I still had a little bit of a problem. But that's just me, and I'm certainly not the most handy person in the world. So that's something else to consider. I chose to use slightly longer screws because I had more of those spacers. I thought it was important to have longer screws, so I used longer screws. So when it comes to opening and closing your lock, there's 3 ways. You can do it manually with your foot. I found that to be slightly awkward because the lock is up against the door, and you have to use the ball of your foot and kind of just hit it just right in order to engage the lock up, or to have it to go down. It's easy. You just step on the lock and it goes down. That's my least favorite way. The other 2 ways are, there's an application that you can use on your phone, which works quite nicely, and also a key fob. Now, the key fob costs extra. I think it's about $30, and I recommend these. They're just they just work nicely. And I keep, for example, one by my front door where it's out of sight but easy to reach. So whenever I need to unlock that front door, which is usually locked most of the day, I can just use the key fob and boom, I can open it up. Now, the one problem I had was I would use the app to engage and lock the door, and the damn thing would go up and down. Drove me crazy trying to figure out what was going on. Havenlock's support is quite good. I was very pleased. They were very helpful. Nonetheless, we had to go through a lot of different iterations to finally kind of figure out what was going on, and it wound up being a minor adjustment on a magnet inside the lock. So that adjustment I had to do with a pair of pliers and rotate this tiny magnet about a hair width. I can't remember if it was clockwise or counterclockwise. And that seemed to fix the problem. And so for those first month or 2, I didn't have a lot of faith in the product, and I was frustrated because every time I would try to lock it, it would go up and then down again to an unlocked position, no matter what I did. After spending many phone calls with support, and they were great, we were able to make that adjustment. I had the same issue, though, with a friend's lock that I installed at their house. And the same thing. And after a lot of phone calls and gnashing teeth, it was the similar problem. So I don't know if we happen to have the only two locks that had that issue or if it's more commonplace. But at the end of the day, I really like the lock. And that solved the issue. I haven't had any problems with it. I've got multiple locks now. So the only thing to remember is that the good is that they're great locks. And I think they work as advertised, and I think they are much stronger than the deadbolt. The bad is it may not be as easy to put in as the company would make you think. When you watch their videos, the guy does it in like 30 seconds. If you're somebody like me, that could take you an hour and a half. So, be prepared depending on where you are in the spectrum of a handy person, that it could take you a little bit longer than you think when you put it in. And you're making permanent marks, obviously, in the wood. You can put these things through concrete. I haven't tried that, but they do work really well. I would highly recommend getting it. I highly recommend the key fob, which makes opening and closing much easier. The application works super well, but it takes a little extra time to get the phone out, get to the app, open the app. Whereas the key fob, you can locate it somewhere nearby the door, and it just takes you a second to open that thing up. So overall, this is a great way to reinforce the protection in your home. I do recommend Haven Lock. They were very pleasant to work with, and I think the way they advertise is pretty honest and fair. So I hope that helps. Thanks very much.